Hello. Hi. How y'all doing?
You're breathtaking.
Oh, thank you.
Oh no. My breath has been taken.
Let's scream the rest of the night.
I'm still on. I'll take it from me.
I'm just gonna tell Justin all night my response. Perfect.
Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our voice acting panel of the day, and I am glad you all made it. I'm Justin Briner. I'm a Dallas-based voice actor. You may know me from a little show called My Hero Academia, where I played Deku.
And I am Clifford Chapin. I am also a Dallas-based voice actor, also from My Hero Academia, for playing Katsuki Bakugo. So, this panel is mostly like, hello.
Hi. Oh, hello.
Joining you.
Excellent, please. Oh, good. It's not just us.
Is it on? No, hey. Hi.
Hello. Oh, is this on?
Hello.
Yeah. Cool. We've just done some intros, so please introduce yourselves.
I'm Chloé Hollings, that some of you may know me as Widowmaker in Overwatch.
I'm Elise Zhang. I'm from China. My Chinese name is Zhang Yu. You may know me as May's voice actor in Overwatch.
And I'm Matilda, and I'm from Sweden, and I do the voice of Brigitte in Overwatch.
Nice.
We haven't said hi, like, personally. Yeah. Can you guys introduce yourself again?
Yes.
Hello. I'm Justin. I'm Justin Briner, and I do like anime and video game voiceover.
Cool.
And I'm Clifford Chapin. I also do anime and voiceover, anime video game voiceover. So.
Now we're all settled.
So this is a general voice acting panel, correct? So do we want to just open up the floor for Q&A?
We got a microphone there, so.
Antonio. Anyone up for?
If you guys want, you can line up at the microphone in the center aisle here, and then ask questions. And if you don't do that,
We will just have a conversation.
we'll just talk
We can
amongst
talk about
ourselves.
breakfast.
So.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Lasagna. So I always have a question for voice actors. Do you guys ever create other character voices that you don't get like cast for, like just something off the side just by yourself? Do you understand that? Like, oh, I don't know.
I have a lot of voices that I want to eventually get a character to use on, but like as I do most, I dub mostly. Like Overwatch is the only original character I've done, so then you have to match someone else's voice. So like I don't have that much creative freedom, but I have a lot of voices that I'm like, I need to get this out into the world.
Yeah, totally. I'm in the same sort of thing where it's like, I've developed a whole vocal range, higher pitched voices, lower pitched voices, and all these other sorts of elements that, especially with like dubbing, we don't get to delve into too much unless you're getting a more charactery, cartoony type character or a mascot character or something like that. So, no.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Good first question.
Yeah.
The first question is the scariest, so it's been alleviated.
Well, I didn't have anything yet, so.
Hi.
Hi. My question is for all y'all. What inspired y'all to get into voice acting?
Do you guys want to start?
Sure. Thank you, Chloe. No, yeah, she's not being sarcastic, by the way. It was a mixture of things because I started voice acting as a child. So for those of you who may not know, I was born and raised in Paris, France. Thank you.
But so I was an English speaker, my mom is English, and so I just started doing these funky cartoony things and like educational things, and that's just how I started. So I kind of grew into it, and then when I became an actress, it just seemed like the most natural thing in the world to pursue voice acting. And as I've continued to do it, I have just found it to be something, I have gone deeper and deeper into that, and I just like it more and more for the freedom that it offers, and for the physicality, for the fact that you can do so many different things, whereas on camera, for example, you're very limited. And yeah, so basically that's how it happened for me.
I have pretty much the same answer. I started when I was 6 years old, and then I've done it ever since, and it's something that I just love doing. Like, I just fall more and more in love with it the more I do it.
To me, it's a totally different story. I started learning voice acting at a very late age. I don't know. I majored chemical technology in university, and I got my master's degree of that. And I started voice acting after I got my master's degree. So I want to tell you, if you really like it, it's never too late to begin. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. For me personally, I actually studied filmmaking growing up. I was in like TV and radio and film classes from a young age, and I had always pursued that. But I always really enjoyed cartoons, and eventually I started recognizing voices from shows to shows, and so that was fascinating to me, like realizing that these people were playing multiple characters in such a wide range and stuff, and in different ways than you see on like film. You know, film actors tend to be, except now with like Marvel movies. I'm gonna stop touching that. Except with like Marvel movies now, right, where it's like everybody could be an alien. A lot of times you see people in film and they always are very similar types of roles. So animation voiceover was very fascinating to me in that way. So when I graduated college with a film production degree, I started working on like reality TV, and I worked on like Toddlers and Tiaras, and it was awful. And so then I was like, you know what, maybe I'll try and pursue that other thing that really fascinates me. And that was really it. It was a lot of enjoying other people's performances growing up was what really inspired me. So. Justin.
I grew up acting. I did a lot of stage and musical theater and like choirs growing up. So when it came time to make a career out of it, voiceover popped up to me, and I thought this is a great opportunity. It's a great way to utilize some of the skills I've already cultivated through these other genres. So yeah, and being able to get back to the space of like anime and video games and cartoons is very personally fulfilling. So that also helps a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, yes?
Hi, my name is Dallas. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
So my question is, when it comes to voice acting, you start to understand the character and everything. How do you go about handling like the certain emotions that they're going to show? Like how Bakugo is really known for being angry. Like, do you have to step into that world angry, or does it just come to you? Or when you guys are starting to do more like action things, like in Overwatch, and you have to do those like, like how do you feel going into that?
You look like an idiot in the studio. You definitely, like, there's no doubt about it. You look like an idiot because you have the mic in front of you, and then you just kind of like do the things that you're supposed to do, but you can't. Obviously, like Brigitte has a shield, and she has a shield bash, and so whenever I would do that, I would just like hold my arm like this and just like, ugh, and then you just like get your whole body moving and look like an idiot. It helps. And that's pretty much it for me, at least. Like, you just visualize whatever environment that they're in or the situation that they're in, and then you just look like an idiot.
I'm pretty good at that.
as far as like embracing like emotions and whatnot, especially when it comes to Bakugo, I just go into the booth and I think about Justin Briner and I get angry naturally. No, but the acting is all about like being honest to an emotion and an experience, you know. So when you're trying to portray that feeling, you really do just sort of step into the moment. If you have to think of something that made you angry or you know, a moment that made you feel similarly, that's kind of how you connect to those characters in those moments. Like, you know, we're all human and we all have life experiences and things, and we've gone through tough times and good times, and those are the moments that you call upon when you're trying to live truly as a character.
Can we pretend I said that? This is a way better answer.
And I was going to add that depending on the project that you're on, you may have more or less information about that character. I know that on Overwatch we're quite fortunate. We have a lot of backstory. We know a lot of things about our characters. And basically what I do is that I do whatever I would do for a non-camera role or a theater role, which is just gather these elements and process them in a way that will make me believe whatever I'm saying.
You have to remember some really important moments in your lives. Like you have to remember how your friend cried, how your friend smiled. Sometimes when I'm crying, and then I would think, oh, that's how I cry, and then I'm not sad anymore.
I do the exact same thing. Yeah, when I'm crying, I'm like, oh wait, this is how I look when I cry. Like, this is how I cry. Okay, cool. I'll remember that. Just actor things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ed. It's really nice to meet all of you. Just kind of let's go with what this guy just said. Please forget my stutter. So we talked about range. We talked about the emotions that you can bring into it. My main question is, how do you expand on the range that you already work with? Like for me, in my case, it's very easy for me to switch into a very go for it, like very Stitch-like voice from Stitch. But how do you widen on the range that your voice naturally sits at, like you're talking with right now? Like, how do you widen your range of what you can do with that voice?
It's a lot of just practice and hammering at it. It's not something that you can find an easy solution to and it'll be done in like a few months. You really steadily got to work on expanding the upper and lower registers. What I like to do is singing is a big part of my background, so I use that to warm up, I use that to practice and get into certain vocal spaces. And I think that's a great way to just start slowly adjusting the range of your voice. You know, it'll never be completely, you can't do everything, but you can slowly work at making these deeper or higher registers work for you, and especially in a way that's not painful for you. You really got to practice doing it in a healthy way. So it's basically practice makes better.
I would say, like, just find, like, if you hear someone's voice, like, I feel like personally I'm very fascinated by voices and pronunciations. So when I hear someone pronouncing something differently, I just kind of like hook on that, and then I just try to say it myself, and if I can't, I just try over and over and over again. I'm very annoying as a person because like I do it in front of the person. But like find other voices and accents and stuff like that you want to mimic, because I think it's easier to like have a goal to work towards than just like I mean, you can do like vocal exercises and they help like a lot, but like with Stitch, like that's great that you can do a Stitch voice because not everyone can. So like find another voice where you're like, oh, I can't really do this voice, and then literally just practice.
Yeah, when you talk about voice but not emotions, actually it's all about muscles here. You have to practice. Sometimes, there was a time I had to voice act for a little chicken, and the sound was like, I can't do it now because I'm out of practice for a long time. But at that time I had to practice a lot, and then, I can do that voice, but I can't now. So sad.
And I think a lot of
I
it.
have like certain characters that like when you recorded for them, like you fell in love with the character and then nobody ever asks you about the character and no one has you do voices and you just want to talk about this character.
All my Swedish jobs. No one cares about dubbing in Sweden, so I never did. Yeah, I know. Like I'm not even joking. Like literally, no one cares. And yeah, I do the Swedish voice of Clary in Shadowhunters, like the Netflix show, and that is like, I'm so proud of that work. Like I'm so proud of it. But yeah. Plus, no one watched it dubbed because we don't watch dubbed shows unless you're a child in Sweden, so yeah, all my Swedish jobs.
Give us a line.
Oh, well now it's hard. Well, I don't know. What is, Jimmy means Stille. Thank you. I've never gotten to do that before.
Oh gosh, yeah, I mean, I remember when I was first starting doing conventions, I got all my ducks in a row, and like, I'm going to prepare all these different character prints for everyone, and everyone will pick their favorite, and you can probably guess, I'm well known for one show, so everyone's like, I want this, and all my other characters didn't have any love. So, it's okay. What is truly fascinating and humbling is the one person you'll see all weekend who comes over and they're like, that character is my very favorite in anything. I'm like, awesome, that's super cool. I love so many of my characters. I try to find parts of myself in them or parts of themselves in me just to connect in that capacity. So of course it's a shame when some characters aren't as popular as maybe you feel in your heart they could be, but it's all about the work that I've already done with them, and those memories are already there. So I think it's great.
Yeah. I don't know that I can follow that.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
I had a question. Does it give you particular strain to do the voices that you do? Does it take like a certain level of like practice or like, to get to where you want to be with your voice?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on, I don't really know. For me, I don't find that at all because basically whatever voice we will like end up on for a character, if I do it, it's that I feel comfortable with it. There is a little like searching time generally with the team and the developers and all of that. But no, for me, it's really a mindset. Like voice is also a lot of its character. So once I get a grasp on who this person is, the voice kind of just flows. And even if it's technically like complicated, I also sing a lot. So I guess, I mean, I'm well prepared for that. But I don't really see it as technically challenging anymore. I just dive into whoever I picture, if that makes sense.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm also
My voice gets heard a lot as Bakugo. But I have to scream a lot as a character. So.
Yeah, actually the screaming things, I feel like in Overwatch when we recorded voice lines, the screaming things are put at the end because it strains a lot and like, yeah. But I mean, are there any techniques to like screaming that much?
I was told pretty early on to think of it like singing loudly and badly, supported from the same sort of. So when you hear me scream, it's my bad singing.
I would try that.
Yeah, just supporting it from the diaphragm the same way that you would belt out a note. That's what I was taught at least.
Hi, my name is Dimitri.
Hey.
I specifically had a question for the foreign language actors. Have you ever had a voice director like tell you, no, I wanted to sound more French? And it's like, I'm French. I know what that sounds like. That's not what it sounds like. Or rather, no, that inflection would sound wrong in this language. Have you ever had that issue with a director who
I get that all the
language?
time. When I work in Paris, I'm often working in English, actually. And so I don't know if any of you have noticed this because you're all English speakers, but the English language, I'm gonna like, it's gonna be strong, but the English language is filled with like, changes in tonalities and stuff, and it moves a lot. And the French doesn't. French is just like blah 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 blah. And so often I'll just say a sentence in the most normal and casual way, and they'll be like, "Oh, less, please." And I'm like, I can't. Like, could you insist less on this word? And like, well, no, because it loses its meaning. So yeah, that happens all the time, and sometimes there's like a bit of a struggle, but I mean, we know who's gonna win that one.
Could you relate for Chinese speaking or Swedish?
Well, I've heard mostly from fans of Overwatch that they're like, oh, she doesn't sound Swedish, which is funny because I think they're expecting me to talk like this because this is how we talk in Sweden, but it's not. Like, you don't sound like that. So I think often at the times, like, people have this weird view of how you're supposed to sound when you come from another country. But like, never from a director. I remembered though, when I did the voice test for Brigitte, or one of the voice tests, they asked me like at the end of a voice test, they were like, can you try to read these lines in a very, very like intense Swedish accent? And I was like, okay. And then I tried, like, I found this like, well, I thought I found this like perfect balance between like Swedish, but still like, I could still convey emotions and not sound ridiculous. And so they were like, okay, go. And then I started reading the lines, and they were like, they stopped me, they were like, sweetie, you can probably hear it, but we can't hear the accent. So let's try that one again with like even more of an accent. I was like, oh, okay. And then I had to read these like very dramatic lines, like, you can't do this to me, it's not okay. And to me, I don't know how it sounds to you guys, like obviously I don't, but like to me it just sounds absolutely ridiculous. And I remember I started laughing, which is super unprofessional, but like it just sounded ridiculous. And I knew like if they would have gone for that, like all the Swedish players of Overwatch would have laughed. Like they wouldn't have been able to take her seriously. But I've never, but I don't do any English jobs. Like this is the only job I've done in English, so I've been blessed so far with not having to like put on a fake Swedish accent.
Very good but bad.
Funny stories. But the thing with Matilda, I don't do much English works. I think Overwatch is my only project in English. And I don't speak English in my daily life. So it seems like everyone is satisfied with my Chinese accent. Because I do have a Chinese accent, so I think it's perfect. Everyone's happy, I'm happy.
And have y'all ever done any kind of maybe regional accent that y'all are familiar with that, they tell you, no, we want it this way. No, I'm from there. It sounds like this.
Well, actually, Brigitte is from Gothenburg, but I don't sound like I'm from Gothenburg. I don't think Blizzard knew.
I'm from Maryland. I grew up near Baltimore, and they have a very weird accent that I've never been able to do. I swear I can't get a grasp of it. It's something about the O sound, but so that's one that has eluded me, and I grew up 15 minutes away. So.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
First of all, thank you guys so much for coming out here today. It is a huge pleasure to get to see you and interact with you guys, so thank y'all so much. And
Thank you very much.
I actually just have a question for Clifford. So my understanding is that you are actually the voice director for That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime.
Yes.
And so I just wanted you to speak a little bit more about that. Like, how has that been for you? Have you been enjoying it? What do you look forward to? I know that's a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, so in addition
What
to
is
voice...
What is it? What kind of production?
What is slime?
Oh. So That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, that's an anime that we've dubbed into English. Aside from being a voice actor, I am also an ADR director, so I direct a lot of English language dubs. I directed the dubs for Darling in the Franxx and SSSS Gridman, That time I got reincarnated as slime. I'm currently doing Dr. Stone, which is on Toonami now. So I've done a whole bunch of directing work at this point. And but Slime was a lot of fun. That show's hysterical because we see in anime a lot of isekai shows. You know, that's the hot commodity right now are isekai shows, or shows where the main character gets transported to another world. And inevitably in those shows, the main character is always like, "I'm now amazing." Where once I could not get a girlfriend, now I am the most manly man. You know, and so for this show to have the premise that the main character gets sent to the other world, but as the slime monster, the little like water bubble looking creature, it was so funny. And we had so much fun working on that show because we decided to really run with the isekai fact of it. Because he was from another world, we let him use more colloquial language, more fun language to like how we all in this room would speak, versus the people in the world that he's been sent to. They won't say things like "word," you know, or "awesome sauce," you know, like he'll say those things, but nobody else will, unless they're also from the other world, or from our world, I guess technically. So man, Slime was a lot of fun, and just recently, a full season later, after having finished the first season, we got that OVA episode where they all get to wear their swimsuits, and that was hysterical because 12 or 13 weeks had passed since that cast had gotten together and worked on that show at all, and every single cast member stepped back into it like no time had passed at all. So it was kind of cool. It was kind of like, it's a weird analogy, but it felt like getting your yearbook signed, because it just was like everybody was here, like they had never been gone. I'm really looking forward to season 2 next year. I'm very excited for that. I know some of the details for it, but not too much just yet. Because I'm really focused on other projects right now, so I will have to delve back into researching for future stuff with that show when we get back to it. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited to be with Rimuru again. So.
So when I was here last year, I spent about 5 days sounding somewhere between having pneumonia and smoking 4 packs of cigarette a day. It was bad. I thought I was going to die or never be able to speak again, and I was pretty okay with this later because it hurt a lot to talk. When you have those type of problems, what do? Do you have, medicines, the science of medicine you turn to, some home remedy? What is it that you do when your voice decides not to cooperate? Don't talk. Yeah. Shut up. You've got to get back into it.
For me personally, I have thrashed my voice a few times for Bakugo, pretty much every time for Bakugo, and that usually is like try and record on a Friday and then don't talk over the weekend and let it recover. There's a syrup called Papagua?
The honey loquat?
Yeah. That'll work miracles in a pinch. But that's what we use to kind of like get through like really tough sessions when we're like really against a deadline, and it will help heal you a little bit. But I wouldn't recommend solely relying on it. So, yeah.
What's it called?
Papagua?
Pepakua, I think. It's like a Chinese, I think.
Oh, Chinese, I know that. I've seen it in the Blizzard booth.
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
Can you come say hello?
Yes, I would love to. Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Oh, you guys. Okay, well, we'll share a microphone.
Woo! Yes! Thank you for applauding my pregnancy. Awesome.
Who are you?
I'm Luci Christian, and yes, I'm from Texas, and we just drove in, and we're here to talk about heroes and all kinds of fun stuff. So, hey.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we completely interrupted you talking about.
Oh, that's the end.
Oh, okay.
青春念慈谙琵琶。
I think my best tip is literally just shut up. Like, don't say anything until everything feels better. I drink a lot of water. From what I've heard, everyone says different things, but you're not supposed to drink either cold or hot water. Like, very like room tempered water is water is the best. And then just wait it out, and don't try to push through. If it feels bad, never do that.
Yes.
I do that. Don't do it.
We all do.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that, okay? It's not good for you.
Do as we say, not as we do.
Yes. I did what you did, apparently. Everything wrong.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm not a voiceover artist, but I am a vocal performer. And recently I went to a symposium that was all about like the health of the voice artist. And it was very interesting, and there were a lot of panelists, and like doctors and voice teachers, and a lot of what they said was about a lot of professional voice workers in the classical singing field and just the general speaking field don't actually know that much about like the larynx and the chords and all of those like the technical muscles and what's in your throat, and also that there's a big stigma against like especially in the classical field, and I don't know if this is true of the speaking field, but there's like a stigma against like actual like vocal injuries, that like if you come up with like a polyp or a node, that like suddenly it's kind of like, oh, that person gave us those notes, and it's like, ooh, and a lot of classical singers have trouble, like you kind of keep it on the down low, because then you think, oh, if someone hears that I got nodes, then they're gonna think that I'm not doing things correctly, that I'm not speaking well, when really, I mean, those things just kind of happen. Like it's not so much an if as a when. And so I guess my question is like, do you feel that that's kind of true of the voiceover community as well, or if that's just kind of a opera singer thing, or?
I would agree there's probably a degree of sort of just undereducation across the board. It's not something you really talk much about unless, the closest thing you might get is like a speech class or a singing course, and even then they're not going to dive into nodules and everything. It is a shame that it's stigmatized, because the worst thing for a nodule is to ignore it and just keep going. I think it's just a benefit across the board for people to learn more about their instrument. Every famous musical instrument player knows the ins and outs of their instrument like no other. They're an expert, and I think we should strive to do the same.
Definitely.
Thank
you.
Afternoon, y'all.
Hey.
I can't tell if this is actually working or not.
Yeah, you can tilt it up. You can tilt it up.
Is that better? First thing first, has anyone ever told you you look like a taller version of Maisie Williams? And people who don't know who that actor is, that's Arya Stark from Game of Thrones.
I hear that a lot, especially if I like. Thank you.
And thank you for saying water at room temperature is bad for you, because that gave me a chance to look at my wife and say, I told you so.
That's why we do this job.
Thank you for that. That doesn't happen often. But the actual question is, when actors that are up there right now that's done dubbing, when you do a voice in a dub, do you look over at the original voice, like how they do it in the original anime or manga or game, and try to reference that? Or where do you guys get your material from to know what you want this character to sound like?
I think it's. I've done dubbing since I was so young, and you kind of like grow into like hearing someone else and then just doing that. Like you get a character, and then especially if you do shows where you have to do a bunch of different characters, you kind of just like learn what part of here and here, what they're using. Like I don't know why I'm answering this question, because I'm basically saying that I have no idea what I'm doing. But I think it's just something that I think it helps to have a musical ear, like you can hear the notes when someone's talking, it just helps in a way. And so I feel like it's just experience, like just mimicking people, like I do with my friends all the time, and they enjoy it.
Also, that's where we are very dependent on our directors too. The director usually has an idea of what they're looking for, and I work at Sentai and Funimation primarily, so in both spaces we preview the Japanese first to see what they did and see the context of the scene, and then your director gives you all these clues and adjectives that you're shooting for. And at Sentai, which is where I learned to dub, the Japanese is even under us while we record. It's always there at Sentai. So I'm very used to hearing the Japanese in my ear as an audible cue and kind of a guidepost. But that's there. The director, though, is really key, because they're the ones that'll go, she's too old, or she's too young. I rarely hear she's too old. She's too young, or whatever. Can you make that little boy a little deeper? Can you make him less cartoony and more realistic? And they help you fine tune where the voice lands.
That's very interesting. We rarely have directors in Sweden, so it's only on the bigger shows that we may have that. And also we always have the other language in our ear.
Do you?
Yeah, do you not?
No.
Oh, they don't.
What?
They don't. And in France, we don't either.
What?
No. In France, we just have this thing that's called the bande rythmo. Do you see that? Do you see the words go by underneath?
So you have it like what we do for karaoke.
The stretch, yeah, but it's all stretched out so that you say the word, if the person is going okay, then you have the okay, and so you're supposed to and that is running around, running through, and you're just supposed to say the lines, and there is no noise at all except your own voice.
In Sweden, we just have to go for it. You don't even. I don't even listen to the lines before, because you just listen to the English at the same time.
This is actually a job. Someone is okay.
I'd love to do that.
Well, I can connect you.
I'm honestly learning so much from this panel.
Yeah.
Did you get your question answered?
I got 3.
There's so many answers.
I'm sorry.
Hi there.
Hey.
Hi.
So I wanted to ask for the Overwatch voice actors. When you do the animated shorts like Infiltration, Honor and Glory, Maze, that one's leaving me, I'm sorry. Do you record those at the same time as you do, lines for the game, or is that recorded at a separate time?
I think it's different for everyone because the shorts haven't come out at the same time. So, for example, when I got cast on Overwatch, actually a live short was part of my casting, was part of my test. So, and that's literally the first thing that I ever recorded was that film. And then I went on to do the game kind of in follow-up sessions. But most people have been doing all of the lines, and then suddenly, the animation is coming up, and so they have to do it then. So I don't know about you guys.
I was not the voice of Brigitte in Honor and Glory, so I have nothing to say.
That's right. But sometimes it's just animation. Sometimes just in-game voice lines. Sometimes
But when
together.
you did the short film.
What?
The film.
The cinematic?
When you did the cinematic.
Uh-huh.
That's the question.
Oh, sometimes.
Did you do it?
I do it four times for the short movie, and sometimes with in-game voice lines together.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I have a request. I'm sorry. It was my best friend's birthday a couple days ago, and I was wondering if you could say happy birthday in all those, like, you know, My Hero Academia, Overwatch voices, maybe? That's okay?
Sure. What's her name? Or his name?
Cameron.
Cameron.
Okay.
Like one at a time?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Alright, well,
Yeah, one at a time, I guess.
do you want to start?
I'm sorry.
Cameron 生日快乐
Cameron, happy birthday. That was one shot, one kill. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, I guess.
Happy birthday, Cameron. Hope it's awesome.
Got this go first tonight, Cameron.
Hi, Cameron. Happy birthday.
Well, this is my second question, but I just gotta get out this way. Lucy, I love Prince here so much. And I also enjoyed Princess Tutu.
Oh, my first favorite.
Okay, my question is for, well, it's basically for the cast of My Hero Academia, but it has nothing to do with that. I'm sorry.
Auspicious beginning. I love it.
I know that you two recently took up the mantle of voicing Yue and Toya from Cardcaptor Sakura, and I know that you recently got the role of Hiro from Fruits Basket. So, how did you feel taking up the mantle of those characters?
Oh gosh. Of course it's super humbling. Like, Cardcaptors was a show that I was passingly familiar with as a kid, but so much had changed in their localization compared to the dub that I worked on. Like, my name was Julian back then, I think. It's nice to tell these stories again and help them reach wider audiences and get more folks engaged, while also, being honorable of the history behind it. I just think it's really awesome.
Yeah, and Toya, he had 2 other English voice actors, I think, because there was the original Cardcaptors dub that played on like Fox Kids, and then there was the movie, and I think that was dubbed in LA. So it's really intimidating to take on a role that other people have played, because you know that there's already a fan community out there that believes like this is what the character sounds like, and in that case there were 2. But so it was something. Caitlin was really good about directing us into where the characters were supposed to be at that point, and Caitlin Glass was the voice director for that, and I, like Justin, I'm not immensely familiar with the original series, but a friend of mine is, and she told me everything. like I knew everything. I understood, I then understood why Toya's always at different jobs, and like this whole thing with like he had a power and lost it, and all these sorts of spoilers for a 20-year-old show. But there was a lot to unpack in that, and you hope in those cases that you're being true to what the character is supposed to be in those moments. So.
I was ecstatic to get to be in Fruits Basket. What a wonderful show, and I missed the boat the first time around. So, but I'm a huge Laura Bailey fan, and I mean everybody in that show is so great. So when Caitlin asked me to read for Hiro, I was just like, really? I mean, really? And I loved it because she goes, "Oh, you'll love him. He is such a turd." And I was like, "Awesome, thank you." But he is. He's just wonderfully bratty and great, and I feel really lucky to be a part of such a show that so many people have great, warm feelings for. It's just such a special series.
Also, Justin, I loved you as
I also love you as Mitarai in Danganronpa 3.
Thank you. Thank you. That boy didn't deserve any of that.
It didn't traumatize you, did it?
No, well, the nightmares have mostly subsided.
Well, he's been labeled a seminal role in the fandom, so.
He is, yeah. Anime was not a mistake.
Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Stefan. This one's, I don't know if it'll be a little bit too personal, but whenever I'm doing stuff, I always have trouble keeping motivated to actually continue it. Trying to do 3D animation, going to having to voice my own actors, especially when I want to voice the voicing. What, for like everyone here, is there anything that actually keeps you guys continuously motivated to continue on doing it?
It's fun. I love it. There is that. Like, that is a very important part of it. Like, it's just when you, I don't know, like, it's such a fun job, and I just get it, like, so excited whenever I get a new character to voice. It's like, I don't know, it's like finding it, oh God, I'm gonna sound so, I don't know, fake deep, but like, it's like finding a part of yourself, like, with all these different characters, you're giving like a part of yourself and you're discovering other parts of yourself, and it's just, I don't know, for me, it's just the love of the work, I guess.
Man, my answer's gonna sound terrible. But I grew up in Connecticut, and there's nothing going on in Connecticut for like voiceover or film or anything like that. And so me growing up, I mean, literally since I was 5 years old, I'd always wanted to be doing media-related things. You know, I was always doing voices and, you know, making short films and things like that. And there were a lot of people in my life, like personal people to my life, that would be like, well, why are you wasting your time doing this? You're never gonna succeed. And so there's a part of me that's like, I'll show you. You know, like, and so there's a part of me that like very genuinely keeps going because I want to just keep proving that I could do it, you know? So in a weird sort of way, spite.
Yes, that is it. Love and spite.
Yeah, it's the two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
So.
I have an almost crippling work ethic. It's pretty ironclad, and the people who work with me, I think, sort of understand what I mean by that. I'm compelled to do a good job. And I'm compelled to want the people who I work with to think well of me. And it makes me very, in all of the different things that I do, anime and audiobooks and whatever it is, it makes me very, I have my own internal critic who is constantly kind of pushing me to do better all the time. She can be tough. I'm trying to get a handle on that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just, well, yeah, the love of the work. I mean, in a weird way, I've never even considered, I do many different things, but I've never considered like, oh, do I really want to do this today? I don't know, it's just become such a big part of my life. Discovering human beings through these characters, and sometimes these characters are on a TV show, and sometimes these characters are like, I'm picturing them in a booth, and sometimes I'm writing about them as I write, and it's the best way I've found to discover people in the most meticulous way possible, and that is my passion. And that's why, as long as that will be the best way to do that, that's what I'll do.
Yes, I love my job because I'm kind of a quiet person in real life. I don't talk much and I always follow the rules. And when I'm voice acting in cartoons and video games, that's the only chance for me to be crazy. So I like it. That's it.
Thank you.
I actually thought of something else that I totally forgot.
Thank you for that.
But right before I even got to audition for Overwatch, I was in like a really rough part of my life where I had graduated from high school, and I was like, I worked at an office and like I had fun at work, but I've always had this like dream of like doing more voice jobs or like getting out into the world or like sharing my voice, whether it's via acting or singing, and I like right before Overwatch I was like very, very much giving up on that. Like it didn't feel like I just felt like, why would that ever happen to me? Like why would that even be a thing that would be available for me? And then Overwatch kind of just happened. Like it was like I got casted for it by a studio that I had worked at before, and yeah, bless you. and you know, it just kind of like this huge thing happened to me, and I just kind of realized like, oh my God, I literally have no idea what will happen. Like you can't expect bad things to come because there might as well be good things, and like losing your motivation is just pointless, honestly. Like there's no point in not hoping and wishing for things and dreaming. Like it's just, it sounds so cheesy, but like I literally lost hope. I just didn't want to do anything anymore, and then this happened. Like I said yes to a voice test, and now I'm here, and it's just, you never know what can happen. Like just say yes, like take the opportunities, and just like that's the motivation. Like just knowing that, you know, literally anything can happen. Like you could die tomorrow as well, but you might as well live while you live. God, I sound like an inspirational page. But yeah, do you get what I'm saying? Yes, okay, good.
Hi there. My name is Catherine. Thank you so much for coming out. I have a small request, if that's not too much to ask for. So I have two very good friends. My friend Diane, she's a very big fan of anime, and she loves all this stuff. And her husband, Noe, is a very big fan of Overwatch and video games. I had gotten back from the hospital recently because they just had their first baby, and they really wanted to come here, but unfortunately they couldn't because, you know, life happens, and sometimes you can't stop the baby. So anyways, they gave birth to a beautiful girl, and I just want, if it's not too much to ask, if I can ask for a shout out of congratulations to them for having their first child. I really care about them, and I'm the godmother, so it's a really big honor, so I want to do something for them. If that's too much to ask. And it could be in any of your like your favorite voices, or even if you do normal voices, that's too much, not too much to ask for, please.
Can we do it right after the panel?
Sure.
Yeah, that would not like yelling at his microphone.
All right. Fine.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Right after.
We are running a little low on time, so that's lightning round, the last couple.
That's awesome. Okay, I mean, basically, hi, my name's Chelsea. Basically, long and short, I feel like a lot of video games with like no dialogue in it, and I just kind of do their own voices on my free time. You said that you write, and I'm assuming some of y'all in video games or something like that. Do you voice the characters, or do you, like, when you read a book, do you voice what they would sound like in like a TV show or like a movie?
Personally, for me, I just do voices whenever I tell a story, or like if I want to convey to someone how a person is. Like a voice can say a lot. Like, so I don't know. And never when I read something, it's usually just in my head. I mean, I guess I hear the voices, but like I don't think about it. And when I game, it's usually. Well, okay, actually, when me and my brother plays games and it has text on it, we always read it in like a silly voice, like a silly accent, or you know, literally anything that comes up then and there. But it's not really because it fits, it's just because, well, mostly it's because it doesn't fit.
Same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, pretty much the same. But yeah, I don't write like anything with dialogues. I write memoirs, so that doesn't really apply to that. But yeah. Also, I love children's books. Like I love telling stories to children and doing all the voices, of course.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Wiley. Real quick, a comedian, actor, Jim Carrey, fully embodied Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon. And he really says how much that changed him as a person. Have any of y'all fully embodied any characters that y'all feel like it's totally changed y'all?
I'm now Widowmaker.
Oh, he's actually a perfect sniper in real life.
I don't know. I mean, the anime character that I've been closest to is Duck in Princess Tutu. It was just my first favorite thing ever. But when I was an actor, like a stage actor, I got to play Honey and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and we got to take it to the Kennedy Center, and it just happened. It was a role that happened at a time that I just really needed that role. She's very unstable, and it was very cathartic at the time, and yeah, I mean, I felt like I was like, oh, this is what, I was never a method actor, never into that at all. I'm a very technical person and a technical actor. But that made me a believer in really actually feeling some things when you need to.
Colleen Quinkenbeard will tell you that I am exactly like Bakugo. she will tell you she's wrong, or at least I think so. But she will tell you, so.
I wish I had a good answer to this question, but usually, like, I feel like I get casted very much to what I sound like. Like with Rita, I sound like her pretty much. Like, she's just like in a higher register a little and like more cheerful. But I do, like, I don't want to talk about Shadowhunters again, but I remember when I dubbed Shadowhunters and I did Clary, and she was going through some really rough things, like, I don't want to spoil anything, but like stuff happens in that show, and like I never had to dub something that's serious before, so for me that kind of changed more my way of getting into the character and like really like, I don't know, like just changing my mindset and becoming that person, but I can't really, this is a bad answer, I can't really say how, but like, I don't know, like with her I cried in the studio and that hasn't happened to me before because I just kind of grew into her, yeah.
That's not a bad answer at all. That's speaking from your heart and telling the truth.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim Carrey has like, have you seen the documentary?
Yes.
Yeah. So he has the luxury, like when he did that movie, first of all, it wasn't his first, like he'd been doing this for a very long time. He had like a lot of time, he had a lot of, like he was able to kind of like dive into this in a way that is very specific, and most of us, we do a job that is, like we don't have a lot of time to do what we do. Yeah. We don't have preparation, we don't have rehearsals like most of the time, we just get into the studio, we do our thing. So when we're not doing voice acting and like we're on camera or like on stage, we get much more time, but to get to do what Jim Carrey did takes a level of confidence that is incredible, a level of trust in your crew, in yourself. Like he already had that career that allowed him to go explore those areas. So it's a whole other context, but yeah, it is amazing to live, yeah.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is that it?
We're all
cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming.